It's time for a cup of coffee with Will and Chris at Slumberland Furniture. From Slumberland Furniture in Osage Beach, here are your hosts, William Holtz and Chris Schneider.
Back at Slumberland at the Lake for this week's cup of coffee with Wild Will and Uncle Chris. And boy, if the last few days hasn't been Missouri weather to a T.
Yeah, you're sweating one day, 80 degrees, you're freezing the next day at 30 degrees. It's Super Bowl time, baby. That's here we go.
Super Bowl week, and listen, I know it's just now February, but we got big boating news, which excites me. It's never too early to start talking offshore at Lake of the Ozarks. We'll tell you about that, maybe even a return for Spirit of Qatar at this year's shootout. We'll tell you about that. Plus, hey, we were wondering what happened to Camden County Councilor Jeff Green. Well, we've got somewhat of an answer, plus his replacement ATM theft that was everywhere. You saw that?
I did see that. That was wild, wasn't it? Jeez.
And it's weird because wait until you find out what is being contributed with helping apprehend and find those 4 suspects, plus some cool local events. And as Uncle Chris said, it's Super Bowl week. Your Kansas City Chiefs are back again. We'll tell you about that and more after this from Slumberland at the Lake.
Hey everybody, it's Daryl Cunningham with Slumberland Furniture at the Lake. Mother Nature can't make up her mind what she wants to do outside, but inside, we've made up our mind we're going to have a great President's Sale. Come check out the deals for every room of the house. We can deliver the entire lake area, and we have interest-free financing for 36 months. That's right, you get the great deals and interest-free financing. Come check us out, Slumberland Furniture, where we're bringing happy home.
That's right. Come and see him here at Slumberland at the Lake. And every year this time, going into Super Bowl, more than not over the last decade, Chiefs are in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. How spoiled are Chiefs fans? Usually being a sports fan is really, really, really difficult because there's only one team left standing at the end of the year and everybody else is heartbroken. Even the other team that loses in the Super Bowl, they're heartbroken even though they got there. But the Chiefs have won 3 of those in the last 5 years, so Chiefs fans are like living high on the hog, and here we are again. But are they going to be able to win this time around?
We'll talk about that. Plus, everyone loves to throw around the term dynasty, right, in sports. Well, I think it's time. It's obvious, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Absolutely. Yeah. Maybe one of, if not the most impressive dynasties we've seen in NFL history over a short time. But hey, before we get into that, Lake of the Ozarks news, lake race shootout offshore. Well, it's moving again and back to a original location or a very familiar location down there at the dam. And what's wild about this is with this move, there's always opportunity for animosity, but everybody involved seems really happy about this and excited about shootout offshore moving back to the dam.
Yeah, and it's got a new name, Xsurance Offshore Race, right? So Xsurance putting their name in there. We all still kind of call it Lake Race,
right?
Just because that's so easy to call it, but now it's kind of Xsurance Offshore. Heading back to Bagnell Dam this summer, the APBA sanctioned event will take over a multi-mile stretch of the main channel. And this is it's moving back too. You know, they used to do it over the Memorial Day weekend, and now they're doing it in June 21st and 22nd.
I did want to note real quick, so while we're talking about this, because you're already going to be confused because Lake Race, shootout offshore, location change, now it's Xsurance Offshore, which is different from Lake of the Ozarks shootout, which raised over $700,000 for local charities and fire departments last year. Well, it's now with the shootout name. Last year, the shootout offshore made its debut, but the difference in this June race is, like you said, sanctioned, and you'll see the different boats side by side competing on water. A little more exciting, a little more thrilling, and definitely a higher danger aspect when it comes to these races.
Because you got multiple boats racing against each other. You know, the old axiom is it's like NASCAR on the water, which is really cool.
Like that, yeah.
I actually think this race is going to overtake the big shootout in the years to come because it is more exciting. It is more fan-friendly, thrilling. And now that the right people are running it, I think it's going to become huge in the next decade.
Yeah, because Lake Race, which we won't go into, but there's been inconsistency and organizers and things of that nature. But it's always had untapped potential in regards to if you get some consistency.
Yeah.
And now that the shootout has taken that over, we saw last year some big improvements, and I anticipate that, as you said, races move to the 1 mile marker main channel Saturday, the 21st and 22nd of June. Normally, like you said, at Memorial Day weekend, well, it's moved to later in June, and when you look at that the name change, right, the title sponsor, X Insurance, that's Rick Lindsay and crew. They've really been huge in the offshore industry, from flying their helicopter to sponsoring these sanctioned races, and they've got teams in numerous classes. So that's a big win for this particular event. And JG with Shady Gators, who hosted the event, you know, in coordination with Camden on the Lake a year ago, he actually is excited about it, and they're still going to be having events out there. And then, of course, you bring in George Tucker with his new 50,000 square foot complex, even though that won't be completed till 26. They are going to have docks there in time, with a boardwalk from there to Neon Taco, which will allow easier access, but more viewing areas. So what's your overall take on this big news about the event?
Well, I think it's a big step forward. I think it's a good move for them. And again, it's run by the shootout people, so it's being run fairly well. You know, they took it over last year and just keep continuing to grow it. And with things like, you know, George Tucker's new complex going in beside Neon Taco, all of that is just going to add to the greatness that this thing is going to become. And it's going to be good and big this year, but you just wait another 5, 6, 7 years, how big and how great this thing is going to get. So the schedule for this year's races: Thursday, June 19th, you got the pre-race party, and that's going to be at Lazy Gators. And then Friday, June 20th, testing in the morning, followed by a fun run. That will end at Lazy Gators, and a racer party with a concert on that Friday night, June 20th. Then on Saturday, the 21st, that'll be the first day of the APBA sanctioned races, including time trials, street party. Concert will follow that. So this is going to be one big party.
Hey, that's a big change there, is instead of doing like the street party on the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of the event, it's really cool to see the event make some accommodations, because it's hard after Memorial Day weekend to get down for an entire week, especially if you're running the sanctioned races. So to put that street party Saturday in between the 2 days of racing, that's going to allow everybody to be there. And so that's going to be a big event. And as you said, then a concert to be announced. And I would anticipate they're probably going to go after a pretty big name,
I would think so,
a headline act, something that everybody's going to be pretty excited about.
Yeah, I would think so too. And again, in the years to come, this is going to become huge. And then the last day, Sunday, June 22nd, final race day with an award ceremony afterwards. It seems like what the organizers, again, of Shootout are doing is they're taking the plan that has made Shootout so great. They're kind of taking a lot of the elements over to the X Insurance offshore races, and they're just kind of building that up. It's going to be good.
Yeah, it's going to be good. And something that's new is the APBA sanction Professional Racing Offshore is a newly established Lake of the Ozarks based promoter that actually has the APBA sanction for this event, and that is right here in Lake of the Ozarks. You know, Racing World Offshore, you know, P1. Well, this is a new promoting body, and it's right out of Lake of the Ozarks. So Professional Racing Offshore bodes well for this event, Shootout, and more events and involvement with offshore in our Lake of the Ozarks.
You know, it just seems to me the power of the Lake of the Ozarks, this becoming the core area in the country of boat racing in the country. It's pretty amazing how that seems to be solidifying right here at the lake.
I do want to give a shout out too, because that may not really be possible without like Mark Waddington and Brett Manier and Performance Boat Center, because they kind of saw the writing on the wall almost 20 years ago with offshore down here at Lake of the Ozarks and what they've invested. And they've always been the title sponsor of the Shootout, you know, at least the last 7 to 8 years now with Monster last year. So as it grows, I just kind of think of them, and then, you know, you've had others come along, but offshore is massive. It's now the headquarters, the mecca of offshore racing.
I think you're 100% right. I think Waddington and his whole crew saw this coming when they when they started building Performance Boat Center. I think this was kind of a part of the plan all along. And Brett Manier those guys are just geniuses when it comes to promoting boat racing. It's amazing.
All right, so hey, speaking of offshore and shootout, last year, American Ethanol, Don Onken and crew won their 10th consecutive Top Gun award.
With Lake TV on their boat, right?
Correct, and they hit a mind-boggling 221 miles per hour. It was the fastest three-quarter-mile course speed ever. Well, if you remember, 2014, Spirit of Qatar set the all-time record on the then 1 mile course at 244 miles per hour. Of course, it was Steve Curtis on the throttle and Sheikh Hassan bin Jabor Al Thani who was driving. That was unbelievable. 244. Boat has not returned. Well, Daryl Cuttel, who's the owner and operator of Durana Hybrid Mechanical Solutions, which is based out of Ohio, Hamilton to be exact. He's Canadian born, and he bought the International Hot Rod Association this last year. And so this guy has been quoted as ambitious and high energy. And with that, he bought the 50-foot Mystic Spirit of Qatar cat. Its original name was Al Adham 96. And like I said, it set the record of 244. And this cat is powered by twin turbine engines, T55s, with each capable of producing 3,800 horsepower each. Now, Cuttel, who's been boating since a child, owns 6 high-performance power boats with Spirit of Qatar. And even with this course shortened 3/4 of a mile, he says it's going to be no problem. This boat has always intrigued me. The turbine engines are starving for air, so we're going to create a couple of scoops and intels for them. They've been running at about 80%. We're going to get them up to 110%, and I think it's going to be for this year's shootout. So American Ethanol, 10 consecutive Top Gun awards. Of course, Don Onken also owns a 50-foot Mystic catamaran. This is an intriguing story, to say the least, and as we embark on the 2025 offshore season at Lake of the Ozarks, there is no bigger storyline than the Spirit of Qatar potentially coming back. And also worth noting, Cuttel has Steve Curtis, who was in that boat throttling, running the sticks, on his team, who would be doing the same at the shootout should this boat actually make its return.
Boy, this could be interesting, right? Can you imagine if Spirit of Qatar comes back, American Ethanol's there, if there's going to be like become a big rivalry there. But like you were saying with Spirit of Qatar coming back, the course shortened to 3/4 of a mile for safety reasons. Boats were going so fast that the danger was growing so high, they had to slow them down a little bit. But he says that even though the course has been shortened to 3/4 of a mile, Cuttel believes the record can still be broken at that distance and still beat the 244 miles an hour. Holy moly. I mean, not even American Ethanol has approached that, right?
Right.
That'll be interesting.
And real quick, this is just a little clip and soundbite of that 2014 run from Spirit of Qatar. Wow, unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, no way you couldn't pay me to get in a boat going that fast, man. No way.
I could see you like standing on the outside, on the top, the canopy, as it's going, and then do a backflip and land on something, behind it.
You know who that would be? That would be Myrick Coyle. He would be the one doing
probably
that. Yeah.
True. Hey, but it's worth noting that just because Spirit of Qatar comes back, this is the 3/4 mile course. No one's ever run it faster than Don Onken's team of Tony Badiato and John Kosker, and they're still gunning to improve upon that 221 last year, and I wouldn't count that out from being a very realistic possibility. But if you can tell, I'm all fired up for offshore, and I'm glad the Bills are out of it because I don't have to worry about football anymore. I can start directing my attention to the real sport, offshore racing.
Right, absolutely. And you remember we gave up for New Year's, our resolutions, right? You gave up the vape. And so, I told him before the show, I said, if you can get through the week of the AFC Championship with the Bills playing to go to the Super Bowl without vaping, you got it made, man. So good job.
I thought what he was saying was, listen, if you can get through being a Buffalo Bills fan, there is nothing that this world will throw at you that you can't overcome.
That's the underlying truth there.
It is. It is true. All right, so hey, in more local news, so we told you over the last few weeks, the LPR situation with Camden County heating up back and forth, the Great Divide. Well, we had Prosecutor Rochelle Grosvenor. She came to the commission meeting a couple weeks ago, and we noted through that exchange that the Camden County Commission had no legal counsel.
Yeah.
Counselor Jeff Green was absent, and Commissioner Gohagan had noted during that meeting that we are without legal counsel or representation currently, which led you and I wondering what exactly is going on. Well, we got answers on 129. Camden County has a new attorney. This according to KRMS. They announced that Charlie Dickman had been appointed at the Tuesday, January 28th meeting. Presiding Commissioner Skelton announced Dickman had been appointed. Now, following that KRMS article, January 31st, they had sunshine requests from a recent closed session on January 21st indicating discussion about LPRs was had before Gohagan motioned to terminate Green. There was no second at that time, and at that time in closed session, Commissioner Steve Dugan made a motion to retain or detain Green, and there was no second to that. Now, at that time, Presiding Commissioner Ike Skelton seconded Gohagan's initial motion to terminate Green, so both Gohagan and Skelton voted to terminate Green. Now, only those actions were made available during closed session because those have to legally be released. There's no details in the minutes as to the details of the termination for Green. I reached out to the commission who couldn't comment regarding personnel matters, but Commissioner Skelton did note it isn't what KRMS is leading everyone to believe. There's more there than you would think. So I think there's probably more to the story as far as Counselor Jeff Green's termination, because you may look at this and say, hey, look, based on the fact that Skelton and Gohagan moved to terminate him, maybe he wasn't backing him on their stance on the LPR. Well, it doesn't appear that's actually the case, although based on the way KRMS kind of laid it out, it does lead one to believe that's what's going on.
Yeah, it's just kind of a time of upheaval, it seems, in the, Camden County Commission's office, with the license plate reader controversy that is happening now and the Green thing that's happening now. It just kind of seems to be at a time that there should be solidity and some calm with what seemed to be, a bunch of like-minded people getting together has kind of blown up here in the last couple of months. And this license plate reader thing is still way up in the air with what's going on there. And it involves, all the commissioners, especially Ike Skelton, and Rochelle Christensen, the prosecutor, the sheriff, all kind of involved in this. And I think, at least from what I've seen from the commission meetings, certainly the prosecutor, Rochelle Grosvenor, and the sheriff, trying to be very upfront and open with everything that's been happening and going on. We still don't know if there are going to be any charges against Ike Skelton.
And then there's obviously stuff online and Citizens for Better Camden County and people that are, disgruntled with Prosecutor Grosvenor, with Sheriff Edgar, more so right now, Prosecutor Grosvenor, and considering other cases. But it's not pretty right now. And as we talked about that divide, it'll be interesting to see how Camden County moves forward. And what's ironic about a lot of the you could say the culprit for a lot of this tension or this divide is these LPRs. Well, if you remember last week, the Oak Star Bank in Osage Beach in the wee hours of, I believe, Tuesday or Wednesday, well, it was January 29th at 2:39 or 2:32 a.m.
Yeah, morning, midnight, overnight.
Right, like when you'd think the world is sleeping, officers responded to Oak Star Bank ATM in Osage Beach as an alarm had sounded, and what they arrived to was quite shocking.
Yeah. So you got, a truck that had rammed the ATM trying to break it open, to steal money and everything. Investigators, they go back, they start going, there's so many cameras on those things now, especially at the banks. They identify the getaway vehicle that was bearing a Minnesota license plate through this license plate reader system that has become the big issue in Camden County, right? So in this instance, these LPRs show up as a good thing in helping to identify criminals in this case.
Right. Well, so when they got there, I wanted to go back to that pickup truck that had a chain tied to it around the ATM. That pickup truck was unoccupied, and that truck had been stolen locally, and so they fled with an undisclosed amount of money because they had bashed in the face and somehow gotten into that ATM. I would imagine those are not easy to get into. They forced it open, and the Ford truck, like I said, was stolen locally. But then that same day, 3 p.m., there's an update that 4 persons of interest were in custody in Oklahoma. And as you said, it was the Flock LPR that helped find them in Oklahoma during Oklahoma traffic stop, which they initially fled. And then all 4 subjects were apprehended. Now, they found $47,315 cash in their vehicle. $11,440 of that had been allegedly taken from the Oakstar ATM in Osage Beach. All 4 were being held on theft over $750, a lot over $750, stealing a motor vehicle, and they're being held at Byron County Jail in Oklahoma with no bond. All 4 from Texas, 2 from Houston, 24 years of age, and then 2 from Missouri County, Texas, both in their mid-20s as well. Yeah, so
it seems like, with all that cash on them, maybe they'd hit several ATMs, not just the Oakstar here at Lake of the Ozarks. They had a plan to do it. They'd steal a truck and rip open an ATM, grab the money, and flee. In this case, they got caught, with the license plate readers, which tracked their getaway vehicle from here to where they were in Oklahoma, which is what allowed them to catch up with them.
Triggers. Once one hits and they say it's they're tracking that particular one, then any other LPR video surveillance that it crosses, it triggers. So that way the location, the direction, things of that nature. But they did find out the vehicle was rented and was set to be back on the 29th of January back in Missouri County, Texas. So that's Missouri City, Texas, which is interesting. But they failed on that attempt ultimately because they had the cash. They got away for a little bit, but it wasn't for long.
No, and you know what this shows me is there is good and bad in everything. It's like the gun issue. There are some people that want to get rid of guns because guns kill people. No, it's the people that have the guns that kill people. In the case of the license plate readers, they can be used for good, like in this case. The problem is they can also be abused for bad to spy on citizens, which is the whole crux of the matter with what's going on in Camden County with Ike Skelton and the license plate readers right now.
Right. It's almost like when you see those big headlines with, hate to say it, a school shooting or something heartbreaking like that, people will fly off the handle and say, hey, that was planted. That's to push an agenda. That's to scare people. Well, how ironic was the timing of this ATM apprehension? If you're law enforcement or if you're in the argument that they're good and you want to keep them, this happens right in the midst of that, and they apprehend these guys. Unbelievable, right?
Yeah.
Like uncanny timing as far.
We have never talked about the license plate readers, solving or helping solve a crime ever before, and now it pops up even as the big LPR thing is happening in Camden County.
Wild.
Yeah.
Hey, so some local events you got to get ready for. I don't recommend this one for you only because I love your wife so much, but it's the Pregnancy Help Center annual chili cook-off.
I love some chili, man.
I know you do. Listen, you need to mark your calendars. March 6th at 6 p.m. It's at the Exchange venue, and they're still looking for registrations. Now, the last 2 years, Nick Pierce has won the Judge's Choice.
Really?
And they're looking to knock him off his pedestal they said. A little fun jab there. But if you do win, as Nick has the last couple of years, your chili's featured the entire month of October at Redhead Lakeside Grill. You can look for local celebrity judges. It's only $15 to get in and try all the chili, the walking tacos, the beverages you can consume. Children 11 under are free, and for you people that want to get in on it, registration $25 ahead of time or $30 the day of. So if you get a wild bone about you Friday night and decide, hey, let's whip up some chili and go compete in the chili cook-off, you can still do it the day of at the door. And if you're wondering, Chris, which we love the Pregnancy Help Center, what is the Pregnancy Help Center? It exists to provide faith-based resources and services that address the spiritual, physical, educational, and emotional needs of pregnant and single mothers. We love that organization, very needed. And so mark your calendar, March 6th. And that's one you've been to before, right?
I haven't been to that one. Just
intentionally.
For public safety, yeah, because, once I hit the chili, it becomes dangerous around me. There's got to be about the 10-mile radius around me that can't be broken.
Well, they didn't ask you to judge it, so I did notice that. That's hilarious. And that's such a great organization. And hey, for $15, go have some fun. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people there.
Yeah.
That Nick guy, 2 years in a row.
Wow, must be some good chili.
Someone needs to knock him off his pedestal. So, hey, also, we're talking about boating. We're talking about the changing weather here in Missouri. Well, that means it's almost time for spring. The weather's going to be turning soon, even though the groundhog saw his shadow. You got 6 more weeks.
That's a rat, right?
Hey, that's a rat. All right, so hey, if you are looking towards the spring and summer, our friends at Super Splash USA are hiring over 150 energetic individuals for their $3 million new improvement project at what was Big Surf Water Park. And they're the biggest employer of young people in central Missouri, and they offer a unique opportunity for individuals 14 and older to join the workforce. Now, if you're interested in finding out about joining the Super Splash team, this is not your average run-of-the-mill job, right?
Yeah. Some great people.
And their work perks are competitive pay, free park access. They're going to get you tickets for your family, after-hours parties, in-park discounts, bonuses, and incentives. And if you want to find out more, there's some upcoming job fairs. 10 a.m. to noon at Columbia College in Osage Beach on February 15th. Of course, February 22nd at Bridal Cave. They'll have one that day as well from 10 to noon. And then March 8th will be another job fair with Super Splash USA at a location to be determined. But what I love about Super Splash USA is their mission and the way they look at what they're there in our community to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Good, strong, faith-based people and company. Man, we are just in love with those people at Super Splash. I think they're going to do great things. And boy, they're going to be hiring a lot of people there.
No doubt. All right, so we got to get ready for Super Bowl 59 this Sunday. I want to go over a couple of things. You see ticket prices aren't as high as normal?
Oh, they're down? Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
They were anywhere from $3,400 to $16,000 when I checked Tuesday morning, which is about a 30% dip in the last week and 50% less than last year. However, there are 9,000 less tickets a year ago as far as availability. And last year went down as the most expensive Super Bowl in NFL history, being in Vegas. Another thing, TV advertisements, Fox sold at least 10 spots for upward of $8 million each for this year's Super Bowl.
Unbelievable. That's crazy.
Mahomes' 5th Super Bowl start, which is tied second all-time with John Elway. Of course, Tom Brady has 10. He's got 3 Super Bowl wins, ties him for 3rd with Aikman. If he wins another, he'll be tied second all-time with Montana and Bradshaw with 4 rings. Hard to think just 7 years in. Kendrick Lamar going to perform at halftime, yay or nay?
Nah.
I knew I would get that from you. I want your prediction. Uncle Chris, final score and MVP.
Chiefs lose 31-27, although I want the Chiefs to win, but I think the Chiefs are going down 31-27. MVP's got to be Jalen Hurts, right?
All right, I'm going to go other side. Chiefs win 29-27 on a late Harrison Butker field goal. Patty Mahomes, another Super Bowl MVP. Everybody can celebrate, can sleep, can get excited. The Kansas City Chiefs are Super Bowl champs once again. Hey, don't miss next week's show. I'll have Jeff Carr joining me here on Cup of Coffee. Big shout out to Chris Lightco and company. Until next week, my friends, thanks for watching this week's Cup of Coffee.